Okay. I was pretty accurate afterwards in the game. I didn't want to commit to a lot, but they outcoached us. They outplayed us. They were more physical than us. In the last game, we weren't ready to play. I didn't do a very good job getting our guys ready. But we finished all that yesterday and went through all the tape and meetings and such and practiced last night and back at it today and ready to roll for this week.
Knowing what you know about how things went last week, still juggling injuries and trying to get prepared, how do you handle this week of practice?
Well, we're going to practice like we've always practiced.
Hey, Coach, so I know after the game, you said it's a tough loss and one that you got to refocus, because you have practice on Sunday. So after a loss like that, what does it take to refocus the team and get them ready to play with less than 24 hours after that?
One thing I think that we have accomplished here from longevity and long-term culture is I tell them the same thing after every game, in that sometimes we go out and eat or spend time with whoever, girlfriends, family, whatever, and it's enjoyable, and then we come back Sunday and we go to work, or sometimes we don't, or we could and it's not as enjoyable, but we still have to go to work Sunday. And that's what I saw from the guys last night. And if there's anything that I've learned in doing this a long time is to be very honest with the players. Always is the best option, and that's what we did with them yesterday, and with ourselves as coaches.
Mike, what'd you do yesterday, or what'd you do last week besides cutting back on the physicality? Did you practice any differently?
Yeah. We altered several things. I had concerns about, as I mentioned up there, just kind of who we had left, and there's a lot of different ways to handle this as a coach and different philosophies. But one consistent philosophy for most coaches is when you show up Saturday, you want to have as many guys as you can have. And so I was a little more concerned than maybe I should have been about where we were at from an injury standpoint.
Mike, you've been around this long enough, and I know you preach the same body language and attitude, but you can read. I mean, what'd you read from them emotionally last night at practice and through the meetings on Sunday?
All these questions are good and they're fair, but guys, I've been doing this 18 years. We won as many games as anybody in college football in the last 10 or 12 years at a very, very high level. We didn't play good and we didn't coach good. And they played really well for what they were trying to accomplish. Chris is a good guy, the coach. And, like he said after the game to me, he said, I don't think we could have played a more perfect game against y'all. And I said, well, you picked a shitty day to do it. But I'm just going to tell you guys the way it is. I've been doing this a long time, and I think we have a good relationship the last 2 or 3 years. I'm pretty honest with you guys about everything. They physically whipped us, and they outcoached us, and they had better plans than we did, and I didn't do a good job of preparing us. Now, that doesn't answer your question. What your question is they're fine. They're kids. They're fine. Are they as excited as they were after we played Texas? No. But that's life. That's what we do, right? We're going to have things for the rest of our lives that we're like, that's not very fun, or that was awesome. So, and I tell them sometimes, it's like a day trader or a financial advisor, an investor, and he put money in Amazon 10 years ago. The guy, he's fired up. The guy that put money in something else that's not doing good is not very fired up, but he still has to continue if he's got more money left. But the point being is they're fine. The coaches are a bigger problem than the players because there's more of an emotional strain on them. It's their life. It's their everyday. It's their kids. More so than the players. They kind of get through stuff quicker based on the way the world is. So I expect them to I've seen a bunch of them in the office today watching tape. I expect them to come back and practice really well tomorrow. we practiced good last week. We just didn't do some of the same stuff. And I don't know, maybe that wasn't as big a factor. I don't know. I mean, I had to come up with something based on not playing very good and not coaching very good.
Based on coaches, like handling this differently than players, based on the fact you had not been through a game like Saturday before as a head coach, what was your Saturday night like?
My Saturday night?
Did you do anything out of the ordinary based on what happened?
I mean, when I got home, I don't eat much on a Saturday. I always have a nervous stomach and butterflies, so I don't eat much. Generally, after a game, we win most of the time, so then I feel like I'll eat everything in sight, I think Mac Brown's the one that said he fires up a couple double cheeseburgers after a game, right? And I think he's the guy that said that, and that's kind of the way we are. So I just grabbed a little bit to eat, and then I go to bed just because I don't want to sit there and watch a TV of a game and watch my score go across the bottom. We got our ass kicked. That's no fun. I'd rather watch what the week before. And butt kicked. I was trying to not cuss, but butt kicked. But point being is that's what I do. And then I'm up, 3:42, something like that. I came to work at 4:17, worked all day, and watched every single play. Watched every play on offense, watched every play on defense, watched every play on special teams, and then started doing all the other stuff and practiced last night, went home about 8:30 or 9. So, I mean, my routine doesn't change much. It's just not as fun.
Did you know right away that there are things that you would have or could have done differently? Does that dawn on you earlier?
In the game?
Like that? In a game like that?
Well, I mean, the issue you had is when you got down 3+ even 4 scores versus a 3-down team that plays back a lot. Challenge is, can you ever get back in the game enough? Because the clock's not your friend anymore. Is there enough time to accumulate plays based on the way they play? That's when it starts to become concerning. And so you deal with that, and you don't want to overdo it because you can't become somebody you're not. Like the flip side of that would be some teams that are really good ball control. Well, I'll use the military schools. If they get down 3 touchdowns, it's probably not good because it works against what they're built for. So once that happened, then we have to start trying to rally in different ways, and obviously it didn't work very well.
You mentioned K-State 3-man front, dropping a lot of guys. With the inconsistencies you've seen in the run game, does that make some of that stuff even more concerning, that you had some favorable run fronts and that you weren't able to run against?
You know what's interesting? Like, for example, I did some three down study like you do. The guys that are playing 3 down in this league are giving up fewer rush yards than the 4 down guys. Pretty interesting.
What do you do? Because I know that's been concerning to you, and you're probably not going to draw up anything for us here. But how do you try at this point to stimulate the run game? What do you see as the things you can, kind of push and pull?
We can't change what we do. We're going to run the plays we run in midstream. You don't change who you are and what you do. So you continue to try to improve at it. One of the issues that I was just talking about was when you fall behind by multiple scores like that, you almost become one-dimensional. So it's even more difficult. Sometimes people would say, well, it's easier to run the ball if you're that far behind because they think you're going to throw it. Not always, because you're getting a lot of different junk up front. And that's stuff that you don't practice a lot. So we can't spend a lot of time just practicing what I call junk stuff and not practice base stuff. And then when teams get ahead, you can dial up plays as a coordinator on both sides of the ball because you're not worried about, well, if I mess it up, it doesn't make a difference. I'm still up by 3 touches. So it gives them a little more free will. And so then they come off their call sheet, which is what your coordinators are basing their calls on, is what their calls on certain situations. And in most cases, they're already off their call sheet. So there's just a lot of things going on.
DeAndre Jackson got his most significant action so far. He did some good things.
He did.
I mean,
Yeah, he ran the ball well, played hard, competed.
caught screen,
Yeah.
One thing I noticed is maybe his protection. when he was involved in that? He's got work to do there.
You know what? It wasn't, it was okay. And it was certainly something we can work with. But he's a guy that we were excited about what he brought to the table in that game.
What's happened to the running game? For so long, you were really good at it, one of the best. Last couple, I don't know, ever how long.
Right.
It's not just this year, you just sort of been stagnant in the running game. What's happened?
Oh, I think some of it, we've had some multiple guys playing different positions up front in the last few years, unfortunately. We went through, I guess 09 up through about, I don't know, I got my years, 16, 17, 18, where we really were healthy up front with our 5 guys pretty much every game. So they learned to work together and make calls, and we don't have to move one guy to the other. Like we took Brooks and played him at guard. He played good. Played a good game. He'd not played guard before. Might have found something out we didn't know. I think the consistency of the 5 guys up front really helps a lot. And we've managed, like we rushed the ball. Our running backs averaged 4.4 yards a carry against Texas, which I was thrilled with that. It was better than what it had been. So we've shown some glimpses of getting better at it, but if I had to say what's causing it would be that we just haven't had the 5 guys consistent there working together. Those guys need to kind of be in sync.
You've had 3 different position coaches there, I think, since I've started writing about you. Does that have anything to do with it? Would it help to have continuity in the guy coaching?
I don't think so, Garen. I think a lot of times coaches use that as an excuse. Head coaches do. Like we could look at first-year coaches. I don't know. Somebody around the country is doing good. The guys at TCU, they're not having any problem their first year. You know what I'm saying? So I think some coaches, head coaches, just kind of use that as an excuse. We hire coaches that know what they're doing and are experienced, and they go through the spring football, and they have August. I mean, by then we ought to have it kind of coached up.
Like Pete Carroll last week said he wants the NFL to look at getting away from artificial turf. He thinks they cause too many injuries. You played on artificial turf for a long time. Do you like what you guys are using? Have you studied the issue of injuries and are comfortable with turf?
Yeah, I don't obviously don't know anything about the NFL. I think that the turf, like this new turf that we have here, is safer than grass. And for example, there's a couple teams, maybe one a year or 2 a year, maybe we'll play on grass. Sometimes you play in a bowl game in grass, and if you look at the guys slipping. They slip everywhere. To me, I think that's more of an injury risk than the turf. Now, I don't know if he's referring to maybe potential head injuries on a turf. I can't answer that. And I don't have an in-depth study enough, but this new surface like we're using here, I really think it's safe. But I don't know about the head injuries on the turf. I can't answer to that.
What do you think of Kansas? Obviously, this guy's done a good job. I mean, turning them around. They look a lot different from what they've looked like in the past.
Well, he's done well everywhere he's been. He's a good football coach, and I told you guys last year before we played them, I like their concepts. I like their schemes. They were in games and had something go wrong at the end, but could have won. They could have beat OU last year, right, at home. The quarterback kid that's at USC makes a play on 4th and 3 and scores, or if they get him, he's down the backfield. They could have run the clock out and beat him last year. So they had progressed as they went on. Their quarterback's really active. They're doing a really good job throwing it, RPOing it, running it. They're motioning and getting to what I call triple option with an RPO off of it, doing some different things. And they're playing hard, and you got to play well to beat them. They've
They've really come along defensively as far as running to the football, and almost effort has been the big deal on that side of the ball.
Yeah, in most cases, if you're winning a little, you run to the ball. If you're just losing consistently year after year after year and game after game, you don't run to the ball.
Coach, you're going to have there were questions about who would be the Kansas State starting quarterback, and there's still the opportunity that you don't exactly know who's going to be the KU starter. Does the approach change any after how it went last week?
What do you mean approach?
Preparing for a quarterback when you're not sure who it's
Well,
going to be.
we didn't prepare. We prepared the same way. Whoever they played at quarterback would be the same for us, and it would be the same for Kansas. I got bad information last Monday on who was playing, but that didn't have anything to do with us not playing well. They're running the same plays with both of these quarterbacks, I guess is what I'm saying.
Your quarterback's also a little bit banged up. Compared to last year, whenever you had Shane, who's more of a pocket guy, how much does the offense change between Spencer and Gundy?
Not much. With Shane couldn't really maneuver, and he's not going to hurt you running the ball. The guys that we have here, all of our guys practice the same way and practice the same plays, very similar to Kansas. So if you look at the games that the other quarterback played in just recently, they're running the same plays, and we run the same plays.
How's Spencer doing? He banged up pretty good at the end of that game.
I hope he's doing good. We're going to rest him some this week and try to get him back and get him going, just like we've been doing.
I know you had your head down yesterday with what you've got going here, but you've been close with the new commissioner, and it broke yesterday that he's negotiated a deal with ESPN and Fox for a contract extension of television rights. It's 73% better than what the current deal is. Do you have any thoughts on? You've been a big supporter. What do you think?
Well, that's one thing I was right on. I said he would do it. This conference would be fine. Oklahoma State would be fine from day one. I mentioned that. I said Oklahoma State would be fine. I didn't know anything about the new teams coming in, but I knew we were in good shape. And then once the new teams came in, I knew that we were in great shape. And then once we hired him, I even felt better. And he secured it, however much more for 6 years, or I didn't pay attention to it, but I need to text him. Yeah, so it starts in 25. Is that the year? Yeah, so 6 years, which that's kind of what we talked about in here. I felt like we would be a short-term in media deals, because normally they try to grab a 10, 12, or 15-year deal. But because it's new, and there's new teams, makes sense for the ESPN and Fox to not want to say we're going to buy a 12-year deal. Okay, we'll do a 5 or 6 year deal. We're going to pay you more money. He's a big-time wheeler dealer negotiator, and from day one that I talked to him, I knew we were in great hands. So he's secured us all the way through 31, and I'm going to guess at 28-ish or something. I don't pretend to be. I'm not a business guy, so I don't know that he's going to go back in and do it again, and it's going to be better.
Talking about the Big 12's the only school with ESPN and Fox both as partners. So, any thoughts?
Good, I guess. They, his job is to make big money for the schools. That's what he did. Yeah, that's good.
Back to Kansas. In years past, they've occasionally played people tough, but basically it was a breather for everybody. This year, they're a very solid team, and Big 12 is known as the no bad teams league. Everybody's some level of
Kind of what
good.
we talked about in here 5 or 6 weeks ago.
So does that change anything that you do or programs do, knowing that, hey, you got to play an A game most weeks to have a chance to win?
What's interesting with them, we talked about what you just brought up. There's been a number of teams over the years go up there and play there when they were struggling. I mean, we can call it like it is. And not play very good. I mean, I'm sure you've been there enough times following OU and following us when we were pretty good, and you looked at the scoreboard, there's like 3 minutes to go in the third quarter, and it's like 24-17. and I've been there a number of times with what I would have considered on paper a considerably better team, and we weren't playing very good. One year, Tyreek had to return a kickoff to give us a lead, I think, or maybe it's tied. I don't remember, but then they played last year. They were making strides, in my opinion, and I thought they had really good schemes. In my opinion, they were well coached. They just couldn't turn the corner at certain cases, and then this year we saw that carry over. The quarterback was making a lot of plays, running some counter triple option RPO stuff that's not easy to deal with, and the quarterback's willing to run and willing to get hit, so you have to defend him. And then so I don't know what somebody mentioned, but you start to win a little bit. Now everybody chases the ball and trying to make plays and having fun. And then instead of in 12 or 15,000 people coming to the game, now they got 40 or 45 or whatever they've averaged, and things change, and it doesn't take long. So it's really good for our conference and not as good for the coaches, because you got to go out and play well, as we've seen.
Potentially, you're gonna get in the new playoff. At least one, most years. You're certain of that?
This league,
Yeah, Big
Yeah,
12.
right.
But a parity-driven league where anybody can beat anybody, it seems like it's gonna be tougher than ever for somebody to, it's not easy now. We've had very few teams go unbeaten in conference. You didn't do it with your great team in 11.
yeah, the unbeaten's going to be hard. Getting in's going to be easier because there's 12, right? Isn't that what they say, 12? So the 12 helps everybody across the country. I would really doubt that the major conferences in the country won't get a team or two in when you go to 12. The unbeaten teams, based on the way it is now, there is some adjustments going on with the portal. There's some boundaries that are trying to be set with NIL right now. So I don't know if any of it's concrete yet, but if that continues on the way it is, we're in the NFL basically is what we're in. And so the parity of the NFL is the same. I just watched, when I got home last night, I didn't see any of it, but I saw the score. The team that won the Super Bowl last year has got a losing record. That's the NFL. That's what's trickling down to this level with the parity week to week based on free agency and which is transfer portal and NIL, which is incentives through money. So it's balancing out.
If Spencer can't go, whether it's Saturday or any time this year, how comfortable are you with Gunner's ability to come in and maintain the offensive level? We've had a bunch of backup quarterbacks do well. One did it on you Saturday. We've also had a couple teams not do so great with the backup.
Yeah,
What's your comfort level
the
with
comfort the comfort level is never going to be the same as it is with a guy that's played 3 or 4 years. The guy at Kansas State has played a considerable number of games. He's older, he's experienced. So I think it would be unfair for me to stand here and say my comfort level with either of the two quarterbacks that we would use would be the same with him, because it's not. They're inexperienced. They're learning on the run. Now I've seen them execute in scrimmages. I've seen them do things in the indoor, but it's different when the lights are on and people are there. We all know that. That's just athletics. So we would learn on the run somewhat. Do I think we can function? Sure we can. Do I think that we function the way we do with Spencer? No, because of his 40-something games of experience and being in those situations.
In that scenario, Mike, would you have to do what Oklahoma did when they lost Gabriel against Texas, run a bunch of wildcat, go with the backup, but also mix in wildcat, just run all sorts of stuff to try to function wholly as an offense? Would it get to that degree, you think?
No, I just don't believe in that. I'm not saying it's wrong.
Right.
I didn't see, I didn't watch OU against Texas when we were getting ready to play them because of what I had heard, so I just didn't have interest in watching it. I didn't think it fit what we did, so I have not seen that. I haven't seen any of it. And I'm not saying it's wrong, but that's not something that I believe in. I think that we practice plays We have guys that have practiced. They need to run the plays that they've practiced. We need to run the plays that we've practiced and try to execute those. I think when you reach for stuff, you're asking young people to do things that they lose a comfort zone in, and they may not be as productive. That's just my opinion.
You said you looked at every play. It wasn't a big sample size, but real deal analysis when Gunner, especially the second drive, where they moved the ball down the field, he had the scramble, I think the screen with Jackson, but then, he's trying to make a play. How hard did you coach him on the
I didn't
play?
have to. He came to me and apologized. I said, you don't need to apologize to me. You need to apologize to the team and your coaches. I mean, I just stand there and watch it, and I don't have anything to do with that. But I know that there are times, sometimes he's a freelancer. He did stuff like that in high school. And he's done it here. He's done it at this level in scrimmages and in games. But I think that he learned a lesson in a good way that this is a different game. Sometimes you see things like that. You see guys do it all the time. You see quarterbacks do that, but there's a time and a place, and one of them's not in the middle of the field. That'd be my suggestion. When you're out running by the sideline and you can see what's going on and something happens, that's different. But when the middle of the field wouldn't be a good suggestion.
What do you think of his, limited?
I mean, he did okay. From an evaluation stage, we're down 40-something points. They're in pure drop. So there's some minimal evaluation going on, but he functioned and knew where to go with the ball, made throws. Tried to throw one out cut over a drop player's head, which he would probably tell you that I could have made that throw, but maybe not now. So there's some things that he did good, and there's some things that he learned.
You said Saturday that Spencer was in the game when he was in the fourth quarter because he wanted to compete, right? That was his right to fight to the. Does there come a time, though, a coach has to overrule that and say, look, man, we got to pull you. You've had some things the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, there could be time, and I could have done that, but I'm going to lean toward experience, longevity, veteran. Whether it's him or a Brock Martin or Malcolm Rodriguez, they want to go in and play, coach, I want to play. They've earned the right to do it. Now, I could have, we took him out because of just what you said. I guess maybe you're asking me, could it have been 10 minutes earlier?
Right before he
Yeah. I mean, we could have. I could have just said, hey, but he's different with that. And his demeanor and the way he's handled himself has been fabulous. So I didn't want to start a storm that didn't need to be started. I had a big enough storm going on, and I didn't want to start one with him. And so at some point we said, hey, there's no reason to send you out there. Could we have done it earlier? Sure. Should I have? Probably. Probably should have just said, hey, no, you're not going out. But I tend to lean toward the experience and the longevity of those guys.
Mike, if and when Gunner plays, starts, is the main guy, has to be the main guy, and whatever, how much pressure's on him, the son of a head coach? I mean, we're seeing Brian Ferentz at Iowa, not very pretty up there, with nepotism claims by virtually everyone. How much pressure is that on a guy if he has to?
Oh, I think he's got more pressure. I've told him from day one, and the way I look at it is this. I evaluate practices, I evaluate gameplay, and one of the most difficult things to do with all of us that have had kids is to say, to make a decision that maybe not might favor your kid when that's not a natural human instinct. But that's what I have to do. And I can listen to other coaches and such. Would there be more pressure on him? Sure. Unjustly unfair? Probably, but it is what it is.
Your coaches pretty well, Casey and Tim, whoever else, you've got the right kind of relationship where you think they can be honest with you, or how tough is that to tell a head coach, no, I don't think your son's good?
Oh, I think it would be tough on them, but I think that I've been with him 100 years, and I have a great relationship with Tim, and So we've watched it now for a year, and we watched it through the spring, we watched it through the fall, and we're in the situation we're in based on kind of where we're at. We've got another young quarterback in this program that's really good too. I mean, he's a good player. He doesn't have any experience either, but from what he's shown us in practice and scrimmages and stuff, I mean, we feel good. We feel good about him. So, hopefully, we don't have to. Hopefully, Spencer will play because obviously that's a different level. But if so, then we go through the path that maybe you're talking about, and we figure it out. We go play and see where it goes.
Faced a lot of third and longs on Saturday, and with Tom banged up, is there going to be any priority to maybe on third long pick up a few yards and go for it on fourth down?
Because of what?
With Tom out, or not out, but a little banged up.
Oh, no, not really. Logan is our backup punter and punts really good. I feel comfortable with him coming in and punting. Now, he's not experienced, and, kind of the same thing we're talking about with quarterback. A little bit different at quarterback because it's more magnified, but I feel good about Logan if he has to come in and punt. He's done a good job, practice and worked hard and done a good job, and I'm comfortable with him.
Braylon a lot on kick returns last week. What'd you think of him there? And was that just because Nixon needed to be more involved as a running back? Like, what was Braylon?
Yeah, so we were down a running back, and so it increased his workload, and so you just try to minimize as many collisions as possible. So put the little fella out there and let him get his feet wet and figure it out. Game moved fast for him.
Mike, bad scene at Michigan Saturday with that tunnel fight. How much do you have to stay on your guys, reminding them, hey, this thing, no matter what happens, emotions, you can't.
I don't have any idea what you're talking about.
So like Michigan State, when the teams went for the tunnel.
Where'd they play at?
It's at Michigan.
Yeah, it's the same tunnel. I've been in
Yeah,
it.
same tunnel. They got in, 10 Michigan State guys got around, 1 or 2 Michigan guys, and whacked them around pretty good.
Oh, okay.
And the police are involved and all kinds of stuff.
Okay. That's the first I've heard of that. So, to me, that's a nightmare for a coach. And if you notice, when we warm up for games, we very seldom cross our own 40-yard line. Now, you're welcome to the 50, and then we split it. But we very seldom cross our own 40 because not that we don't trust any of our guys, but I don't want involved in any of that. It has nothing to do with the game. And I'm not blaming either of the coaches up there. I don't know what happened. I don't know. It's the first I've heard of it. But my point is, you ask me about us, and so we stay on our own 40. And then, they have restrictions now pregame. Didn't used to have restrictions pregame because we had some issues in college a few years ago, which helps. So that's a big no for me because I just think it's disrespectful to college football. I'm just calling it like it is for me. I'm not blaming their players. I'm not blaming their coach. You asked me about our organization. I'm not a fan of it. I just I don't like it. It has nothing to do with the game. So I'll be honest with you. I tell them, you want to be a tough guy? Be a tough guy when the ball snaps. I'm more for that until they blow the whistle or until you run out of the white. You can be a tough guy all you want then. The other stuff doesn't do much for me because everybody knows you're going to get broken up, right? It's like fighting in the cafeteria in school. You know they're going to break it up. If you want to fight, take your ass down the street afterwards when nobody's going to break it up.
You ever been in a deal where you were worried about something getting out of hand with your guys before a game through the years?
I don't think so. When they divided the field, it was the best thing they ever did, the conference. I don't know if they do it in other leagues or not. I know we have to. But see, you used to be able to cross over. So that's not a good thing. And dividing the field helps a lot. Good.
You also run that risk with field rushing, and you've had a couple this year. How do you feel your guys have handled those? And obviously, it seemed like, at least with Saturday, K-State was pretty good at making sure that they funneled the students away from you guys.
When I first started coaching here, we never had that problem. because when people beat us, they just thought it's the way it's supposed to be. And you know what's interesting now is, and I don't think I forget about it. Like when the game's over, I'm gonna hustle out, tell them good job and all that, and then I feel them coming, and I forget about it. Then it becomes an issue because I'm trying to get out of there. Students are fired up. They're wanting to nag on me, you know, nice mullet, your team sucks, all that stuff. I'm just trying to get out of there. I'm for them, you know, great job, and I think that's awesome. But I think our guys have done a good job. But that is a little more high risk, and I'll tell you why. Because you have people on the field that have, in most cases, probably had a cocktail or two, and so they might make a bad. You like that, didn't you? Huh? See, you're better off up here, so you're not out there. But people make poor decisions in that situation, and they're just kids having a good time. They're fired up. Their team won, but they can make a poor decision. And we get bumped into and hit and whatever. They always bump in. It's accidental, and you just hope that the kids, you know, understand. Hey, they won. They're happy. Let's get to the locker room and hit the road. So, all right.
Thanks, guys.